All right, welcome back, everyone. Today, we're doing things a bit differently. Yeah. We're going to dive deep into the world of pharmaceutical finances.
Oh, exciting.
Yeah, we're looking at Zydus Lifesciences, specifically their Q2 results for fiscal year 2025.
I gotta say, these financial reports, they might seem a little dry at first glance,
Right.
but they're really a company's diary, aren't they? You get to see their journey, the highs, the lows, how they adapt.
Absolutely. And for this deep dive, we've got two main sources, okay? First, we have Zydus's own press release about the results, straight from the horse's mouth.
Yeah.
And then we have this really detailed investor presentation, which is packed with charts and graphs and all sorts of good stuff.
The juicy details.
Exactly. And trust me, even if you're not a finance whiz, there are some seriously cool things in here, promise. We're talking cutting-edge new drugs, global markets, and even, get this, a venture into animal-free proteins.
It's like peeking behind the curtain. We get to see how Zydus is taking their big ideas and turning them into something real tangible.
Okay, so let's jump right in. Zydus, they're pretty proud of this. Their revenue went up a whopping 20% year over year.
Impressive.
Yeah. And their net profit, that climbed a respectable 14% for Q2 FY25. Not bad, right?
Not bad at all. And what's really interesting is when you compare these numbers to the previous quarter and the same period last year, well, it's like they hit the gas pedal. And that momentum is reflected in their EBITDA margin, sitting pretty at 27.9%, according to their investor presentation. That tells us their profits are healthy, they're growing, and they're doing it efficiently.
Okay, be honest, you kind of lost me at EBITDA margin. Can we break that down for the folks at home who don't speak fluent finance?
Of course,
Yeah.
EBITDA stands for earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization.
Right.
Think of it as a way to see the core muscle of their operations, stripping away things like debt and accounting complexities.
Yeah.
It gives you a clear picture of their operating profitability.
Gotcha. So basically, a strong EBITDA margin means Zydus's core business is, like, ripped. They're in good
Yeah.
shape, yeah.
Exactly. They're hitting the gym, lifting those profits.
I like it. Okay, so let's dive a little deeper here. We're going to break down their different business segments.
Okay.
And the investor presentation has this fantastic chart that really lays it all out. It's like we're putting together a puzzle.
Yeah, seeing how each piece fits and contributes to the big picture.
First up, their bread and butter India
Is
formulation.
their home turf?
They are absolutely crushing it here. 10% growth year over year, which is even better than the overall market growth in India. That's coming from strong sales in both chronic therapies, those long-term treatments, as well as acute therapies, those for immediate needs. And get this, they have over 1,000 brands. That's serious brand power.
It really shows you how well they understand the Indian market, right? They've built this trust with consumers, a loyalty that's invaluable.
All right, next we've got consumer wellness. And this segment, it's also on fire, 12% growth fueled by, people buying more of their products.
Volume, volume, volume.
Exactly. And here's where it gets interesting. They own brands that are practically household names in India, sugar-free. They've got a massive 59.4% market share.
Wow.
Every Youth, the skincare brand, they're sitting at a comfy 34.3% market share. And hold on to your hats, because they just acquired Nitral, a healthy snacks company. So they're tapping into this whole booming market for good-for-you snacks.
Smart move, right. They're diversifying, catching the wave of this global health and wellness trend. Zydus is riding that wave like a pro.
All right, now let's hop across the globe, okay? We're going to their U.S. formulations business.
Right.
They are keeping up their winning streak with a solid 29.6% growth year over year. This growth, it's fueled by new product launches. They had 4 new product launches this quarter. And, just making sure their current products are reaching more people. And they're not stopping there. They're actively building their generics pipeline. Think of it like a conveyor belt of new, more affordable versions of existing drugs. They filed 8 new ANDAs this quarter. Those are applications to get generic drugs approved.
All right.
And they got 9 approvals, including 3 tentative approvals, which means they're basically ready to hit the market.
That's crucial for them, for their long-term success in the U.S. generics market, which, let's be honest, it's a battlefield out there.
Oh, yeah.
But Zydus is holding their own, grabbing a big piece of that pie.
And get this, even with everything going on in the world right now, their international markets segment, they hit double-digit growth. They're like that friend who just handles whatever life throws at them.
Resilient, Adaptable.
Exactly. And if you look at the big picture, Zydus isn't putting all their eggs in one basket. They've got their stronghold in India, they're fighting hard in the US generics market, and they're being really strategic about which areas to focus on in other countries.
It's a smart approach, especially in the pharmaceutical industry, which is constantly being shaped and reshaped by so many factors, regulations, market trends, global events.
Now, here's the mind-blowing part, okay? Zydus is seriously committed to research and development. They're not just sitting back and counting their cash, they're reinvesting a whopping 9.2% of their revenue back into creating new innovative stuff.
That's a bold statement. It tells you they're not just playing catch-up, they're aiming to be leaders to develop those therapies and solutions of the future.
Right. And their NCE pipeline, that's new chemical entity for those who don't speak science, it's packed with potential game changers.
And this is where you really see their dedication to tackling those unmet medical needs,
Yeah.
making a difference where it matters most.
For example, they're working on seraglitazar magnesium, which is making good progress in clinical trials.
Okay.
One of the things they're testing it for is this rare liver disease called primary biliary cholangitis. Then there's usnoflast, which is showing some real promise in a trial for ALS.
Wow.
Yeah, Lou Gehrig's disease. And early results, they're actually suggesting that it might be able to slow down the disease and even improve function.
That would be a huge breakthrough.
Huge. And they're not stopping there. They've got desidustat moving into a proof of concept trial for sickle cell disease.
Okay.
And they're working with the Indian Council of Medical Research on this one.
So they're partnering with local institutions, leveraging their expertise.
Exactly. And this is a big deal because it shows that they're tackling major public health challenges, especially those affecting India directly.
They're not just chasing profits, they're trying to make a real, lasting impact.
And their biosimilars and vaccines pipelines, they're buzzing with activity as well. They finished enrolling patients for phase 3 clinical trials for one of their biosimilars.
That's basically like a generic version of a biologic drug.
Exactly. And they're moving forward with preclinical safety studies for another one. And they even submitted an application for clinical trials to the regulators in India. And on the vaccine front, they completed phase 2 clinical trials for their hepatitis E vaccine. And get this, their typhoid conjugate vaccine, called Zyvac TCV, got a big thumbs up from the World Health Organization.
Now that's a major endorsement.
Right. It means their vaccine meets the WHO's super strict quality and safety standards. It could be purchased by UN agencies and distributed all over the world.
Global impact.
All right, are you ready for this? Zydus is making this giant leap into the animal-free protein business.
Now that's fascinating.
It's like they're not just a pharma company anymore. They're diving into the future of food.
It might seem like a surprising move, but it actually makes a lot of sense given the growing demand for sustainable, ethical food sources.
Right. It's like the plant-based meat craze, but for all kinds of protein. They've partnered with a U.S. company called Perfect Day to create this joint venture, and they bought a 50% stake in Sterling Biotech Limited. That's where they're building this cutting-edge facility to produce these proteins.
So they're putting their money where their mouth is, literally. This, along with their purchase of Sterling Biotech's API business, which focuses on fermentation-based products, it puts them right at the forefront of an industry that could revolutionize, well, everything.
It's mind-blowing, right? They're combining their pharmaceutical expertise with this groundbreaking technology to create solutions for healthcare and for nutrition. It's like, what can't they do?
They're pushing boundaries, that's for sure.
All right, so let's recap just to make sure we're all on the same page. We've got a company with incredible financial results, strategic growth in all these different markets, a dedication to innovation that's off the charts, and now this venture into animal-free protein.
A company on the move.
Zydus Lifesciences is definitely a company to watch. But here's a question for you and for everyone listening, okay? Could this be a glimpse into the future? Not just of healthcare, but of how we eat, how we nourish ourselves. What other amazing innovations might come from a company like this? A company that's willing to blend science, business savvy, and this vision for a healthier, more sustainable world. Okay, so we're back. More on Zydus Lifesciences. Last time, remember, we were kind of blown away by their expansion, new markets and how much they're investing in research, especially things like biosimilars and vaccines.
Oh, yeah. And let's not forget about that whole animal-free protein thing. I mean, it could be a real game changer, not just for Zydus, but for, how we think about food, period.
Absolutely. But for a minute, okay, I want to zoom back in on those financials. We talked about revenue, how profitable they are, but what about the nitty-gritty, like balance sheet, cash flow? The stuff that shows if a company's financially fit.
Right, right. You want the behind-the-scenes look at their money situation.
Yeah.
And actually, the investor presentation, it dives into all of that, gives us a really detailed picture. And, sorry, we're seeing consistent growth. Their total income, just from operations. For the first half of FY25, get this, it hit ours, 114,445 million.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's a 20.4% jump compared to the same time last year.
Okay, so that's huge, but what's driving that kind of climb?
Well, it's a mix, right? You got growth across all their segments, especially how well they're doing in India and the US. That's major. But then those acquisitions, bringing Naturalin for consumer wellness, that joint venture for animal-free protein, it's all adding up.
Makes sense, makes sense. But sometimes a company can have great revenue, but not be so good at, managing it all. What about their expenses? Are they actually profitable?
Well, that's where that impressive EBITDA margin comes in.
Right, yeah.
Even with spending more on R&G on these acquisitions, they've kept their EBITDA at a healthy 27.9% for the first half of FY25.
Yeah.
It's like they're balancing growth, but doing it smart.
So they're not just growing, they're growing wisely. I like that. But what about cash flow? Like, are they actually making enough money to keep this up, to fuel all those ambitious projects?
They absolutely are. Their cash flow statement, it's a very positive picture. They generated, just in the first half of FY25, ours, $35,788 million in cash, just from operations. And that cash, it's going right back into their growth, new facilities, R&D infrastructure, all of it.
So they're walking the walk, huh? Not just talking about innovation, actually funding it.
Exactly, exactly. And you know what else is interesting? They've got this net cash position as of September 30, 2024, of ours, $25,906 million. That's a nice cushion. Gives them flexibility,
Yeah.
more acquisitions, investing in new tech, even weathering any economic storms.
So it sounds like they're in a really strong position, financially speaking, like they've built themselves this fortress. But even the strongest companies, they face risks, right? What are some things that could, I don't know, trip them up?
That's a great point, and it's the kind of thing any savvy investor would be thinking about. The pharmaceutical industry, it's a bit of a roller coaster by nature, right? Regulations change, pricing gets squeezed, there's competition from generics, from brand new drugs.
So even with a solid strategy, they're not immune to, like, market forces.
Exactly. For example,
Yeah.
what if they hit some regulatory snag, right? In the US or Europe, you could delay product launches, or currency exchange rates, the rupee against the dollar, that can affect their international earnings.
It's a good reminder that even when things look rosy, there's always external factors, stuff you can't always predict.
Absolutely. But here's the thing. Zydus has shown they can adapt, they're resilient, their business model, it's diversified. Global reach, that dedication to innovation we talked about, it gives them a buffer.
Okay, so like layers of protection, right? Okay, there's something else in this investor presentation that piqued my interest. They mention a change in their deferred tax expense. Can we unpack that a little?
Sure, sure. There's a few things happening there. First, they're making an educated guess about their tax rate in India changing. They're using a provision. It's under Section 115 BAA of the Income Tax Act. But they won't know for sure until their final return, the one for the year ending March 34th, 2024.
So a bit of a wait-and-see situation.
Exactly. Second, their U.S. subsidiaries, they've tweaked how they calculate their income tax, which means they're recognizing a current liability and upping their deferred tax assets. And lastly, two of their subsidiaries, they've figured out they're eligible for MAT credit entitlements. That's minimum alternate tax.
Okay, I gotta be honest. Even I'm getting a little lost in the weeds here. Can we simplify that for the folks who don't, geek out on finance like we do?
You got it. Basically, Zydus is playing the tax game strategically, making sure they pay what they owe, but not a penny more. Complicated stuff shows they've got some sharp financial minds working for them.
Right, it's not always as straightforward as it looks. And speaking of not straightforward, they also mentioned discontinued operations. What's that all about?
Yes. That's because they decided to close down the manufacturing facilities of two of their U.S. subsidiaries, Nesher Pharmaceuticals and Huron Pharmaceuticals. So they're reporting those separately now, standard accounting practice.
So it's like they're streamlining, putting their energy where it's most profitable, right?
Very astute observation. They also talk about classifying certain assets as held for sale, which relates to Zydus Wellness Products Limited's decision to sell some assets at their Setarganj location in Uttarakhand. Again, they're being transparent, disclosing this separately.
It seems like they're really actively managing like their whole portfolio. Making choices to set themselves up for success down the line.
Precisely. They're not just reacting, they're shaping their own future.
Yeah.
But, before we move on, I do want to mention something that happened after the period these reports cover.
Ooh, a postscript development. Do tell.
So on October 30th, 2024, Zydus Wellness Limited, they signed a share purchase agreement. They're going to buy the entire share capital of Natural India Private Limited.
Whoa, okay. And Natural, they're a big player in the healthy snacks market, right?
Exactly. Major player. They expect to finalize this acquisition within 60 days.
Wow, that's a power move. This seems perfect for their whole health and wellness push, like expanding what they offer, solidifying their spot in a growing market.
Absolutely. It shows they're not content with just, organic growth. They're looking for opportunities, strategic acquisitions, bringing in businesses that fit their vision.
It's like that acquisition of the Liquids Group, remember? Back in November 2023, that brought them into liquid medicines and sterile manufacturing.
Right. That was a huge step, expanding their global footprint and their capabilities. Zydus, they're on a roll, making moves to be a leader in pharma A&D wellness.
It's fascinating, how all these pieces fit together. The money stuff, the strategic decisions, the innovative projects. It's more than just numbers on a page, right? It's a company with a vision.
And that vision, it seems to be about growth, diversifying, and really committing to using science to solve problems. They're constantly evolving, adapting to how healthcare and nutrition are changing.
This has been seriously eye-opening, even for someone like me, not a financial expert. Zydus Lifesciences, they deserve attention, not just for the money they make, but for what they're doing in the world. Innovative products, solutions. It's pretty inspiring.
Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into Zydus Lifesciences. We've talked about, their overall performance, the big picture stuff, their strategy, acquisitions, their commitment to all that innovation. But now I want to kind of zoom in, focus on those individual pieces, those segments that make up this company. And let's start on their home turf, okay? India formulations.
It's remarkable, isn't it, how strong they are in this market, and they just keep outperforming quarter after quarter.
Yeah, like what's their secret? What's the magic formula?
Well, a few things. Deep understanding of the market, that's key. They have this massive portfolio of brands, trusted brands, people rely on them. And their distribution network, it's strong, it reaches everywhere. Plus, they've been smart about tapping into the growing demand for chronic disease meds, their share of that market. It's been steadily climbing. And it's not just about relying on what they already have, right? They're constantly innovating new products all the time.
Exactly. Just this past quarter, 12 new product launches in India. 4 of those were first in India. So that constant innovation, plus their focus on building strong brands, keeps them ahead of the game.
It's wild. Over 1,000 brands in their portfolio. That's not easy to manage.
No, it takes real vision, long-term thinking. And they've done it. They've built those brands, turned them into household names, trusted by patients across all sorts of therapeutic areas.
All right, let's move on to consumer wellness, another area where they're killing it. What's the recipe for success in this market? It's got to be super competitive.
It is very competitive. But for Zydus, it comes down to a few things. Again, brand recognition. That's huge. They have a diverse portfolio, something for everyone, and they keep innovating, staying ahead of the trends.
And that natural acquisition, right, really cements their commitment to this whole wellness thing.
Oh, absolutely. Bringing in a leader in healthy snacks, it expands their offerings, taps into this massive demand for, healthier food, sustainable food. Zydus is reading the room, so to speak.
Okay, now let's jump across the world again. U.S. formulations. This is a big part of their growth strategy, right? But the U.S. generics market, it's a tough one.
It is super competitive, lots of pressure on pricing. But Zydus, they're thriving. Focus on efficiency, keeping that product pipeline flowing, and strategic partnerships. They're constantly filing ANDAs, getting approvals, new products hitting the market all the time.
And they're not afraid to make some big moves, like that recent licensing agreement for those gadolinium-based contrast agents, the ones used for MRI scans.
Smart move, right?
Right.
It lets them expand, but without having to develop everything in-house, which takes time and money. They're leveraging their partner, Viewit Pharmaceuticals, and diversifying their offerings beyond just traditional generics.
All right, let's not forget their international markets business. Quietly but steadily contributing to their growth. What's their approach to all those different markets? They're all so unique.
Yeah, it's about focus, being strategic. They're not trying to be everything to everyone. They pick specific therapies, specific markets where they see the most potential.
Choosing their battles wisely, using their strengths where they count.
Exactly. They're leveraging their global R&D capabilities to bring those affordable, high-quality generics to those markets. Even with challenges like political instability, economic ups and downs, they've managed to keep growing.
It's impressive adapting like that, thriving in all that complexity.
It really is. When you look at Zydus Lifesciences as a whole, it's like they're this master juggler, right?
Mhm.
Financial performance, new markets, cutting-edge innovation.
And always open to new opportunities, like that jump into animal-free protein. It's bold. And through it all, they stay true to their values.
Hmm.
Quality, affordability, making sure their products are accessible.
Powerful combination. I'm really curious to see what they do next, how they keep evolving.
This deep dive, I'll be honest, it's been eye-opening, even for me, and finance isn't my usual thing. But Zydus Life Sciences, they're a company worth knowing about, not just for the money they make, but the impact they're having.
It's a good reminder that businesses can be a force for good, right?
Yeah.
Pushing progress in healthcare, nutrition, making the world better. And Zydus, they're a great example of that.
Well said. And on that note, I think we'll wrap up this episode of The Deep Dive. We hope you enjoyed this journey into the world of Zydus Life Sciences, a company that's clearly doing some amazing things. And remember, stay curious, keep exploring, keep diving deep. Until next time.